most learning still is like 3-ring binders. It's just in the cloud. It gets out of date really fast. It's not useful. So I think, this sort of hyper-personalized learning approach is going to be effective. The problem is that the hyper-personal also requires having the proper data about the individual, and that's where the skills ontologies are struggling.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Analyst Gone Wild, or sometimes we refer it as Analyst Gone Grouchy. We'll find out today. And today we have a planning disaster here. We have 3 Johns on the show, so it's going to be fun. Just quickly about me, Sam Gupta, Elevate IQ, roughly 20 years in the space, enterprise software. On that note, we'll start with everybody's intros. John S., do you want to start?
Let me jump right in. John Santaferraro, 30 years of experience in the data analytics and now AI space. I am the founder and chief analyst at Ferraro Consulting, and excited to be a part of this. Thanks for the invitation, Sam.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, John. John Reed, do you want to go next?
Sure. John Reed, co-founder Acumatica. I'm not grouchy yet, but I might get grouchy. I got to warn you, these news releases have a tendency to send me in a buzzword overload, but I look forward to learning something from the gang.
Of course, once we open up these stories, I think we'll see the emotions here. Thank you so much for being here, John. Okay, John H., do you want to go next?
All right. Hey, listen, I've been in high tech and procurement for 40 plus years. You see a whole lot over that time. As much things change, they remain the same, remains true in many instances. I'm founder of Procurement Insights, which was launched in 2007, one of the first blogs. And it's just great to be talking about these timely news headlines. I think we all learn from each other when we discuss.
We do. Thank you so much for being here, John. Hyun, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Hyun Park, founder of Amalgam Insights, which I've run for the past 8 years. I've been an industry analyst 17 years in total, looking at AI, data, and IT management issues. Funny thing, my middle name is actually John. I started using John professionally, and I stopped using it because there are too many Johns in my office. But I can go back to using John if that helps you, Sam.
Yeah, today is going to be a John show. Thank you so much for being here, guys. And if you're in the audience joining for the first time, we are a big fan of creating this 3-way conversation. So we are looking forward to your comments, experiences, stories, whatever you might be able to share. On that note, I'm going to jump on to the first story. And here, I'll provide some background, guys, and then I would love to hear your comments. So this is slightly different, I guess. You guys have appeared on many different episodes now. We do cover some of the service providers as well and the consulting firms. But so far, what we have done is the enterprise software companies for the most part. So here, this is obviously the consulting story. And in this case, this is focusing on HR, from the Phenom perspective, and this is the strategic alliance. So I don't know what is happening in the HCM world. John Reed, I think you track HCM world a lot. Hyun, I think you are involved there as well. So definitely looking forward to your comments. So I'll open up the floor if you guys have any comments on this one.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Number one, I think that when you start to see companies like Deloitte jumping in with AI companies, newer AI companies, it just indicates that there is a maturing in the market. because those kinds of decisions for a Deloitte, for all of the big 5 consulting firms, they don't do that without some evaluation. And yep. So I think that's number one. Number two, I think it signifies the opportunity to generate value out of this out of the Phenom platform, because Deloitte can't exist without some kind of value creation. If all they do is go in and charge their big fees and nothing comes of it, then they go out of business. So I think it's an opportunity to see an acceleration also of business value creation. And the third thing that's interesting to me is that AI is going vertical. This is HR. This is human capital. It's very specific. And we knew that things were going to move from large language models to very, very vertically specific models. And we're seeing that now in mass.
If I can just comment on the release real quick, the paragraph here that says the future of work continues to be rapidly shaped by advancements in AI and shifts in required skills by combining Deloitte's capital advisory, implementation managed services, scale-tailored industry-relevant solutions with Phenom's AI-powered platform. You lost me, folks. Like, that's basically non-differentiated gibberish at this point. And I really feel bad for customers trying to make sense of what all this really means and who's doing a good job. But one thing I did do is I went back to look at some of the prior coverage and analysis of Phenom. We actually did some on our site because Brian Summer, one of our contributors, has been at their show the last couple of years. And one thing I found really interesting, he finds their Phenom's investment in, to your point, John, vertical HR, AI pretty compelling. But he made the note in a post last year that one of the things that Phenom really needed to do and was talking about doing was to really expand its go-to-market aspects. And so, I think this kind of shows that they've made good on that promise, right? So, for a firm like that to get, tied up in Deloitte, that's big. I mean, that's a validation for them. I tend to think a lot of times, to be honest with you, that specialized firms provide the best value, but it's still a credibility marker for Phenom to get the Deloitte tie-up.
Well, I got there's 3 streams that I could go on here. Back in 1988, Deloitte contract, they were called Deloitte Touche back then, contracted with me to take over their IT service department and sales department. Back then, when PCs came out, Deloitte actually had a division that was selling PCs, and they outsourced it simply because the challenge was there. So they've always been sort of either in and out or on the periphery of breakthrough technology. And of course, what proves that is their recent partnership. Well, it's not so recent anymore with DPW, and then you've got all kinds of things happening in the industry. So it's an interesting time from that, but that's a big picture. That's a macro level. The micro level to me is this, and it comes down to the basics. And to your point about the gibberish, here's some real numbers. More than 90% of employers already use some form of automated system. Yet 25%, and this is from Gartner, say that most job applications, I'm talking about the sourcing and securing and the process of hiring, may be fake. And they're also talking about deep fake on Zoom interviews. So one of the things that I come from, very practical on this, is if there's some automated system, how do you deal with that problem of fake job applications? How do you deal with that problem of deep fake software where you think you're interviewing somebody, but that's actually not who they are and you don't know their true identity? That's what I'm interested in seeing about this. And as for with Deloitte's involvement, I agree. They bring credibility, but like KPMG, et cetera, these organizations, and you raised an excellent point, they've got to bring more than just good advice. They got to bring solutions, but they tend to go for low-hanging grapes that they feel they can turn around and generate revenue with quickly. And if they can't, they quickly move on to the next thing. So, I mean, there's all these interconnected angles on here. And I don't know if they're going to go deep enough to look at how do we address the fake applications of 25%? How do we deal with deep fake software where we feel we're interviewing somebody on Zoom, but it's not really who we think it is? Those are the things that I look at with this.
Yeah, I think John Hanson got straight to the point there that, let's face it, talent recruitment is a hot freaking mess right now, and everybody knows it. It's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, and Deloitte knows they can make a lot of money there. Anytime I see a big partnership announcement like this between an Accenture or a Deloitte and a software company, I immediately think, oh, they think that's a billion-dollar practice opportunity. You know, you can sell $100 million of software and do 10x services over time and make a lot of money because this is a broken process. And there's no doubt, if you ask anybody on either side of the talent acquisition or talent recruitment system, that it's broken with hundreds of applicants for each job, nobody knowing how to find the right person for the right thing. Nobody knows how to identify skills. That's just the reality of where we are right now. And I find it interesting that Phenom's doing this as a private company. I believe their last round of funding was 2020 or 2021, where they got one of these big $100 million funding rounds, and everybody was expecting them to IPO. And then, now we're trying to figure out if anybody's ever going to IPO again.
Yeah, the other thing that I would add is that it says something about Deloitte's strategy too, not based on what we see here, but what we're not seeing from Deloitte is they're investing in AI, but we haven't seen any offering or any platform. And some of their competitors, and we may be talking about this more later, but companies like Ernst & Young and as well as Accenture are offering agentic platforms and AI agent, application building platforms. So I think that we haven't seen that from Deloitte. So Deloitte is taking a different approach, perhaps, of just partnering, sticking to services versus actually deploying more technology.
Also, just want to very quickly point out that you talk about things like AI-driven talent experience and streamlining talent acquisition, and I totally agree with all your comments around the impact of deep fakes and the disrupted nature of HR right now. But I also want to point out that in the EU AI Act risk framework, a lot of these areas are in the very highest risk area. The only higher is prohibited, you can't do it at all. So when companies are looking at this, they need to really think about liability exposure as well with these tools. We've already started to see some lawsuits from individuals who felt they were screened out based on unfair algorithmic practices. And granted, there's a lot of, I would argue, unfair algorithmic screening already live in production for years in a lot of HR departments, but this certainly ups the ante. And I would just encourage customers to realize that while this may sound really cool in terms of driving efficiencies and winning the so-called war on talent, there's some fine print here that you really want to dig into in terms of, is this ethical? And ideally, what these systems will do is actually expand your reach in your talent pool and bring in a more inclusive hiring process than the one you've had. And if I were an HR leader, that's how I would want these systems to work and how I would want to design them. But I would really encourage folks to make that a priority.
Yeah, so great comments, guys. So a couple of follow-ups there, overall based on your comments. And Hyun, I guess one of the comment that you made related to the alignment. So there are three possibilities here, and one thing that you noted that when Deloitte signs up any sort of alliance with any technology vendors, they might feel that, it's going to be $1 billion opportunity, but it's very hard to get traction from Deloitte and Accenture unless you are going to be very well funded. You are going to have some sort of future. So this is very exciting that Phenom is able to get that traction. But at the same time, I guess, there are layers to where these guys fit, right? So number one possibility could be that they might be sitting on top of Workday or any other ACM platform. That would be my understanding, because these guys are developing their agentic capabilities as well. And somebody like Phenom, they are probably going to be some sort of add-on, but it doesn't seem like here because they are signing the direct partnership with Deloitte. And then I guess you guys mentioned one more thing, that these consulting companies are coming up with their own platforms, but they are going to be slightly technical in nature. They are not going to be as verticalized. So I don't know where these guys sort of fit in the equation when it comes to their own place in the market. Are they going to be the next enterprise software company, which I doubt? So I don't know if you're going to have any sort of follow-ups there.
Just that the agentic mess that you bring up is a separate challenge right now. John Santafaro and I've chatted about this before, but just the idea that Phenom's going to have their agents, Deloitte is eventually going to have their agents, Workday and every ERP and HR vendor has their own agents, ServiceNow, Salesforce, they all have their own agents, but right now we're creating these new silos right now, agentic silos. So just what IT and tech needed, another set of silos that need to be put back together.
Yeah. So we have some comments from the audience as well. So let's go over them. So I think Leonard is here. Leonard is saying, by the way, I would love to connect with anyone. So again, please drop your LinkedIn profile if you guys are interested in connecting with each other.
Hi, Leonard. Good to see you again.
Then Leonard is saying more definable use cases can be made on the vertical end. This way we can stop with the hype and then give actual statistics by industry on how much AI will increase efficiency, bottom line, and right sizing of employee groups.
That's a great comment, and I've got to tell you, one of the things that immediately came to mind as I was listening to that is that there is some great opportunity with the technology. For example, Stanford University did a study, if I'm not mistaken, where AI interviews succeeded in subsequent human interviews at 53% rate compared to the traditional resume screening process, of which 28.57, 29% or something like that. So if you look at it, the promise, to speaking to your case standpoint, is we need to see more of that. But it's got to be something that is not part of a sales process or a marketing process, but it has to connect both the challenges and the strengths and the ultimate benefits and how those successes were achieved. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. All right. Any more comments on that? Okay, if we don't have, we have one more comment here. So Leonard is saying, if you fake who you are on a job interview, how do you keep the job? The day you show up, you get fired and you aren't who you are. Or maybe I'm just used to an in-office life.
We're about to find out, Leonard.
It also depends on the job, because half the jobs that people do, you can do with ChatGPT. So you just stick it in and you use generative AI and you keep going. So, not my recommendation, but if it can be faked in an interview, it can be faked to a certain extent on the job to be able to get things done. We're entering a really interesting age.
Well, and with education, in the junior high and senior high schools that my kids go to, they actually had a session of the dangerous impact of AI on education. And to your point, I look at AI as being an evolution from Funkin' Wagnalls to Yahoo to Google, etc. But you still need the people with the experience and expertise to sift through and decipher that information. You got to know the right questions to ask. You've got to be able to understand by experience and actually track it back to something that you have knowledge of. So you're not just memorizing or just, pushing out information, you're actually adding value. So I mean, agentic AI is not a magic bullet, or rather agentic AI, but generative AI. AI's been around since the 50s. The key is you have to have the experienced people to understand. And I'm not talking about data scientists. I'm talking about the frontline people to understand how to decipher what it means based on experience and expertise. I think that's the key point. I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, John, I think it's worse than that, because there's a lot of research now that is showing that basically the overuse of AI leads to just what they're calling the lazy brain, right?
Atrophy.
The ability to think critically, memory. There's cognitive skills and increased dependence. You actually become addicted to the use of the artificial intelligence. You can't think on your own anymore. Wait, this is potentially some of the dumbing down of the human race.
You know what? I'll tell you,
Microsoft of all companies just did that a great study on that.
Well, you know, one of the founders of Second City in Chicago once told me it isn't a real superpower unless it can be used for both good and evil. So, you know, we got to figure out that balance between them. But you're right. Critical thinking, you know, people are going to take the easier route. People are, it's, you know, the root of short resistance. You plug it in and you don't challenge it. You got to challenge everything.
So look, I mean, there's going to be problems with bots trying to fake interviews. There was a news story on this week, but in general, I think the bigger problem is this mess of the escalated ability to fire off applications on the one hand versus it's like robots facing off, right? And you see that right with enterprise security, but it could be even more problematic in HR where the job seeker rightly wants to propagate against these systems by applying to as many jobs as possible. And the whole thing just escalates into just a massive dysfunctional mess of data. And it's going to be really interesting to figure out how we get past that. Because right now, I think we haven't figured that out.
Yeah, we have not. So we have one more comment from Thomas, and this is related to this story. So we'll just go over this as well. So Thomas is saying, do either Phenom or Deloitte have any calculations on the potential benefit an implementation can have for their joint customers? And I don't know, I have not reviewed the case studies, but based on what they are doing, my assumption is going to be at least for the enterprises, there's going to be substantial value. Because in my personal experience, the HR and recruiting is where the real play is of the AI agent, because that's where you have a lot more labor that went into, and, you know, so in my view, I think there's going to be a real value here, but I don't know if you guys have seen any sort of case studies you might be able to talk about.
Come on, Thomas, the press release just came out. You already want to talk about benefits? What the heck?
Well, wait, shouldn't you know the benefits before you actually go into it rather than let's go into it and find out afterwards? What happens when the confetti parade stops?
That's what I've been asking for a long time. No, but I suspect they do have benchmark studies of prior, you know, implementations. So we could go check that out and get back with you, Thomas.
Yeah, but benchmark studies, if they are going to have real value, is always a question.
No, but I mean, I'm sure that they've completed successful projects, all together. I would think.
At least on paper, sure.
At least on paper. Well, those are my favorite kind of projects.
The results. They talk about 70-80% of initiatives fail. The reality is the ones who fail don't want to talk about it, and the ones who succeed don't want to give too much detail because it's a competitive advantage. So you're dealing in this nebulous area of, it works. Here's a logo. Here's a few buzzwords and percentages, and that's it. I mean, how many organizations give you access to actual clients without their involvement that you can ask them unencumbered questions as to, well, what worked, what didn't work, what was a struggle, what wasn't a struggle? There's not a whole lot of companies that'll give you that.
Yeah, you're right. So we have some more comments. So let's just go over them. More tech is used for evil first than good. And that's because use for good normally takes more effort. There could be a debate here between good and bad. What is good, I guess. And he's doing that in air quotes. So I think that's what he means. More comments on this? No? Okay, one more. I have heard that AI can help after hiring with finding the right upskilling programs, courses. Not sure if that is right upskilling or dumbing down, as per John asked, to bring new hires up to speed and beyond. I mean, there could be some value with learning and training, but I don't know.
I'm actually pretty bullish on part of this area, Leonard, in the sense that the sort of so-called hyper-personalization of learning is a pretty good AI use case because there's some tolerance for inaccuracies. And let's face it, like most learning still is like 3-ring binders. It's just in the cloud. It gets out of date really fast. It's not useful. So I think, this sort of hyper-personalized learning approach is going to be effective. The problem is that the hyper-personal also requires having the proper data about the individual. And that's where the skills ontologies are struggling, is understanding exactly how to incorporate the latest individual and their specific needs into the corporate ontology, which may not be perfect either. And if you want to look into that more, take a look at some of the stuff Degreed is doing. I just had a talk with the CEO last week about this topic, and they're trying to make some strides on these sort of custom skills that organizations need. But this is sort of the tricky part, is that you would think that skills are more like this objective set of things, but actually they're very custom to the individual and to the company in a lot of cases. And that's all you got to figure out how to keep that stuff up to date. And everyone wants AI to be able to do that automatically, but it's not there yet for that.
Yeah, and if you look at Degreed or Skillsoft on the skill side, or Workday talks about their skills cloud, there are a bunch of companies out there that have the skills ontology, like John Reed just said. The challenge right now is trying to match skills to people and match skills to now we've got agents as well, and figure out what is the actual skills portfolio and capacity that you have in your organization to be able to conduct specific capabilities, both identifying the names of those skills and the extent to which those skills can actually be enacted or turned into something.
Yeah, great points. Could not agree more. Great comments, guys. I think let's move to the next story, if you guys are okay. So here, I'll give you guys quick background. So here, this is slightly more development story, and I don't know if you guys, any of you track the development side of things. So we are talking about some of the components that they have released. And obviously there's value in the development world for this, but I don't know where progress is overall. But it seems like they are publicly traded, which means they are doing really good, it seems. Your comments, guys? No comments from anybody?
Well,
Just
I can.
Progress has been around.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Ian. You first. Go ahead.
That has an just that Progress has been around such a long time as an analytics and development and API supporting company, and it's everybody wants to have their hooks into helping to build applications and support better UX, better UI at this point. And I just see this as Progress making a step in that direction.
So I guess I think, to your point, Hyun, I think that there's bigger questions about Progress overall and the conglomeration of software components that they're still trying to stitch together. And it's not clear to me that they've done a good job of bringing all that together, either from a messaging standpoint or from an integration standpoint. So, this is very much focused just on their UI tool. And so you almost have to take it separately, not looking at Progress. You have to look at it from only the developer side, because I don't see that Progress has made enough progress to get all of their stuff working together. So if you're looking at it just from a developer standpoint, this is either a really good opportunity and lowers the entry point for companies that are developing applications to be able to build real amazing user interfaces without a massive team of software engineers, or it's potentially just an opportunity for them to build a developer community and get ecosystem lock-in. So I think there's sort of a warning and an opportunity in it.
See, one of the things that come to my mind, and rightly or wrongly, as soon as I noted the point that there's this free 50 and access, I was reminded of an article I wrote back in 2007, 2008 on the free and open source software, and the development and the stimulation and what that was supposed to do. I mean, does anybody know what the parallels are between this and FOSS? I mean, like my first take on it is there seems to be a stream of similarity, just a little bit different because you're now dealing with APIs. But do you see where the connection is? Is there a connection?
Well, it's a JavaScript library, so I think that makes sense, that this is part of the bigger fight to have open source components that you can basically control that are running enterprise grade services. And of course, other companies like IBM has made a big deal out of their open source capabilities, Red Hat. A lot of companies out there want to use open source as a starting point to be able to get their hooks in and then be able to build on top of that afterwards.
So I haven't been to a Progress show in about 10 years, but I still sometimes wear the hoodie that I got from that show, which is pretty impressive because usually after 10 years, there's, that stuff is gone. But Progress has definitely done some reinvention since that time. But I think there are some interesting questions here because when I look at buyer confidence, which is one of my areas of research, I find that developer adoption is one of the underrated aspects of that. And for them to be able to say in this that nearly 42% of professional developers use React according to Stack Overflow, that's a pretty decent level of buy-in, and it seems like they're doing a lot of the right things in terms of engaging a developer community. But that's all free, right? That's part of the healthy ecosystem, but you still have to have a compelling business model around what you do. And that's where I'm just not clear on what Progress stands for or what they're trying to do. If you ask me to tell you right now how they differentiate in the market, I would struggle a little bit.
Yeah, and I am with John Reed, I guess, and I'm probably going to have some follow-up questions, I guess, for you, Jan, because you have been tracking this for some time. And I don't know if this Progress company is the same as the one that used to produce the mainframe side of things, which was the language that was used by QAD, I believe. So I don't know if this is the same company, but I'm a little lost because when you talk about AI and React, these two are not very related. So, one is developer ecosystem, that's going to be some sort of apps. The AI is going to be data side of fields. So I don't know what is their core positioning in the market. Are they really AI company or are they more of the infrastructure company?
I might have only known them historically as a data company.
Their
so
development in...
Go ahead, Hayun.
Nope, I was just going to agree. Data flows and components. That's the Progress I know.
So it's a marketing move. If I'm just hearing this together, and again, this is interesting territory, and I'd want to dig deeper into it. But this is really a hook, isn't it? I mean, that's really what it is. It's like a sample, try it, and once you get hooked with that, we'll have you get into a paid model. I mean, is that it? Because I'm trying to understand the relevance of this.
Yeah, so I guess the comment that we have in the audience that might be related to your comment, John H. And Leonard is saying that how do we know they will remain free? It's not true open source. And I don't know, I mean, see, unless we understand the business model of Progress, it might be harder to comment. But in general, based on the kind of React that I know, it's fairly free. Now, companies might make money on top of that in consulting, etc. But for the most part, the components that you are going to get, sometimes they are going to be paid. Even in the WordPress ecosystem, the business model is fairly similar, that you have some free, you have some paid, but then you are going to have a lot of problems when you are going to use those free components. Sometimes they are okay, they are as part of the community, but everybody has to make money, I guess.
So in other words, there's no such thing as a free ride. That's really what it comes down to, right?
Leonard totally ruined the press release.
Way to totally, I'm not going to get.
I had such a nice buzz over this free developer engagement, and now it's all gone, man.
Just like that. I'm waiting for the toaster.
All right, guys, if you don't have any more comments on this one, I can move to the next one. So this is the ERP story, and here QAD has a new CEO, and I don't know if you guys know him from his past life, but he was with Software AG. And right now, my understanding of this change would be, number one, obviously the private equity is always bringing the newer CEO when they have to move the company to the next phase. And in this case as well, I think they are getting ready for their O3 platform, which is obviously new, that is cloud native, at least as per their claims. And then my assumption is going to be that they are going to move towards the AI agentic capabilities as everybody else has. So that could be a driver for this change. I don't know if you guys are going to have more intel here. Are you guys excited? Not excited? No?
Well, I think this is interesting. I first met Sanjay back when he was at IBM, managing Watson IoT, so Watson Industrial, back in, I want to say 2016, 2017, right before I started Amalgam Insights, actually. And so one of the things I find interesting about that is that Sanjay has been selling AI in the industrial world for almost a decade, which I have to think is an advantage because he has had to go beyond into the hype, beyond the hype, through all the buzzwords, and back to the practical aspects of translating OT into something that can fit into a model. I have to think that has to be some sort of advantage as he is going into QAD.
More comments?
Well, the one thing that I know is because I honestly, and this is interesting, I'd never actually heard of them before. Epicor, I remember when they first started, they're over $1 billion in recurring revenue. You got SAP, Oracle, both behemoths. And then you look at this company and they've got about estimated 335 million in revenue. So they're not huge. I don't really know a lot about them, but again, there is so much noise out there. Well, so-and-so is a press release here. So-and-so has become CEO there. We have a change over here. I mean, what does it really mean to everybody? Like, honestly, who, other than, it's like me coming home with a good report card from my mom. She'll be excited, but I'm not sure the neighbors will be excited. Do you know what I'm saying? Or is that cynical? Is that too cynical?
It's pretty cynical, but that's okay. We said grouch.
Make my life better.
Well, I will say that PR folks get frustrated with me because I always have these like boilerplate lines that I don't write about executive movement. And it's kind of the reason you just described. And one of the big reasons for that, though, is not necessarily that it's irrelevant, but that I believe very much that that you have to prove it. And I don't like judging people too much on their backgrounds because I like to keep an open mind that people can come in and do something cool and different that they haven't before, instead of like saying, oh, well, let's put them in a box because this is what they've done before. But one thing I do want to point out here is that I think that, Sam, you referred to the fact that QAD is still kind of going through its own modernization process. Yeah. I don't believe that's why Sanjay was hired, because I believe that maybe he'll help with that in some way, but it's pretty clear just from the press release. It says he's hired to drive growth. And when you look at QAD, they've been acquiring a lot of companies to bolster their various plays in the manufacturing area. They've acquired pretty much a company a year for the last number of years, and probably it's time to start assembling those groceries into a meal and sell it to someone. And so I suspect that this is very much a growth in sales-driven appointment, getting back to Hyen's comment about how if Sanjay knows how to sell AI, that sounds pretty good to QAD right about now.
Yeah, so some very interesting comments. And John Reed, to your comment, I guess, I don't think QAD has been acquiring as many as other ERP vendors. Yes, they have acquired, but if you look at Epicor, ECI, etc., they acquire a lot more. John H., to your comment, whether 330 million recurring revenue is going to be good for an ERP company, for the most part, they are probably among top 10 ERP vendors. In 90% of the cases, ERP vendors don't have a ton of revenue. Even the biggest of the biggest, sometimes when you look at companies like Smartsheet, they are probably going to have 1 billion in ARR, And I don't know which one is going to be more powerful, Smartsheet or a real ERP vendor. That is still going to be a debate there, I guess, for that. But for the most part, the ERP vendors just don't have as much revenue for whatever reason.
Yeah, and Sam, just to be clear though, the point that I was making there is you can see right on your slide that they talk about the prior CEO went out and acquired some companies, and so now it's time to go out and do something. I mean, they pretty much say it right in the release. So
yeah, could not agree more.
I was going to withhold my comments, but I got to do this because from my perspective, Software AG has been around for a long time as well. And my view of Software AG is that's where old products go to die. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that you and you're shaking your head, I think in agreement, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my perspective on it. So hopefully Sanjay can take what he learned at IBM and his great experience there and apply it to QAD. But it seems to me like he had to get out of Software AG as well. And I can imagine him looking for something. And if this company has made these acquisitions, it's possible that he could figure out how to bring them together in a cohesive manner and take them to market in a more effective way. But boy, and even if you look at the stock while Sanjay was at Software AG, it was up and down, up and down, up and down. So I guess this isn't that exciting of a news, and I'm going to have to adopt the John Reed approach to this because I think it's probably best to just even stay out of it because it's not news.
Yeah. So, John, as to your comment, I guess, related to the acquisitions for the most part, that could be said for, I would say, 90% of the ERP vendors, unless you are going to be more of the product company. Most people argue that in 90% of the cases, when you are going to have these SaaS products, they go to ERP vendors and they die. But then you have companies like Constellation that are doing really well. And the whole model is about bring these companies inside a financial fold and let them die. But they don't die. Some people are making money, I guess.
No, I'm just making an observation about the narrative that they've established, which is they've said our last CEO, made some savvy purchases, and the implication I take is that the next CEO needs to go out and kick some ass. Yeah. That's the implication I take from that, and I would tend to agree that that having served as CEO of Software AG during a not so sterling time in their tenure is not exactly a ringing endorsement. But at the same time, like I said, I don't tend to judge people overly. And like Hyan said, there's some other interesting parts of Sanjay's background. So Sanjay, you have a chance to make your mark. I think QAD is an interesting company and it could really punch above its weight in this market. But at the moment, it doesn't have a lot of sex appeal as a brand. But you could say that about a lot of ERP vendors right now, not just QAD. So,
yeah, great comment. Could not agree more. If you guys don't have anything else here, I'll move to the next one. So this is another ERP story. And in this particular case, this is sort of their ERP story, not ERP AI story, I guess, for Signavio. And they are saying AI-assisted process modeler, which is very interesting for the most part. So here we have some more comments. AI-assisted process analyzer capability in the release of text to insights and text to widget feature. And overall, I like this, to be completely honest. I don't know about you guys, whether you are going to appreciate. For the most part, in my experience, when I have used something like this, yes, you could generate these diagrams using text, but then it becomes very clunky once they are generated to be able to maintain those, because you are going to get a lot of boilerplate, and sometimes it might be easier if you are using a lighter tool. That's been my personal experience, but I don't know if you guys have more comments here.
Oh, I'm immediately getting some SAP ABAP, feelings here. Oof. Anybody here who has ever been through administrated SAP or been through an SAP update understands the challenge of process documentation and management. And also this has this combination of process analysis and text-based use kind of pushes towards the agentic story that has been taking over enterprise software this year. So this is part of SAP's play. I think that the bigger picture, looking at kind of Signavio, Joule, and maybe even Lean IX as kind of this overall big picture look of how technology is being used, is a good step for SAP, because SAP is so complicated to try to manage and oversee that they need tools like this to be able to improve the visibility to process shaping, process orchestration, architecture. So this will at least be helpful for the poor SAP admins who have to figure out what the hell's going on.
So I have a lot of problems with generative AI, which are too many to get into in the show. We just get even grouchier, and then someone would have to yell at me. But one of the things I do like in theory is the prospect of engaging more domain experts that may not be sophisticated in the use of certain tools, and process modeling tools are a really great example of that. And so I like this type of use case if it's designed well, because you get an expert or someone who really understands a particular situation and process and have them just write that out and then turn that into a model. Why not? Like the thing there is then SAP, makes a point of saying this will then be refined within the process modeling environment. So at that point, it gets obviously a close human review, which is going to be really, really important to make sure that your information was captured accurately and stuff. But I kind of like this announcement. In fact, I like it better than some of the overhyped announcements I've seen from SAP and other vendors. This is going a little bit under the radar, but I like it.
Yeah, I have to agree. I like this as a foundational technology for SAP as well. They have done a lot of partnering around process mining. They have made some attempts at process mining, and I think this takes process mining to the next level by tying it to text and being able to do something in real time, and basically taking these new insights and recommendations that are being generated and embedding them eventually directly into how work gets done. There's a lot of potential there, and I do believe in an agentic future. I don't know how fast we're going to get there, but I know that we will. We are quickly moving from generative AI and large language models and the generation of things to more autonomous activities that are taking place. So this is a great way to start that movement, and to especially do that with human, not just in the loop, but human at the front, and then the AI capabilities, and then human in the loop. And you're really building up then a whole set of data that can be used to make that next step towards agentic. So I like this announcement a lot.
Can I just respond to Thomas's peanut gallery comment real quick, Sam?
Yeah.
So, because Thomas, I can't tell if you're being sarcastic around the so exciting part. I'm guessing that you are. I actually do think it's exciting to involve users in creating those things through conversation. But I do agree with you that when you say what would be good is using the tech to identify process gaps, which it can, and have it generate process suggestions from there, I would just say both are possible. Like, it's not an either or. And I'm quite sure that Signavio is heavily involved in what you're suggesting also. It's not, one doesn't replace the other. It's two different ways of trying to improve this.
One thing that came to my mind is a baseline context, and it may seem like it's out of left field. AutoCAD. Does anybody remember AutoCAD?
Yeah.
I mean, that was amazing. Yet you still needed the engineering skill to be able to utilize that tool to understand what you were creating. It was a human AI, well, it wasn't AI, human technology collaboration, communication and collaboration. So when I look at this, there's the one side where I say, I think AutoCAD set the standard for utilizing technology to streamline processes, to be able to do better work, result in better outcomes that you could measure. On the other side, and this goes to the question of, well, how can we trust agentic AI or anything along that line? I mean, putting that in the hands of people who don't know what they're doing or don't have an understanding how to put in the checks and balances could create potential problems. And so, I think to the point, you need critical thinking, experienced, responsible people utilizing the tool to appreciate where it can actually deliver greater benefits rather than spitting out content. Okay, that's just my take.
Yeah, so some great comments there, and I'm going to make one comment related to all of what you guys were saying, and then maybe you guys can provide some more feedback. And this is, based on the personal story. So related to your comment, John H, about AutoCAD. With AutoCAD, at least, generally engineers use it because they are saying that, customers need to collaborate, but they don't need to collaborate to an extent where they kind of need to make a decision. Even if they need to make a decision, that's probably not going to have as much implications, right? But the space that I personally live in, which is ERP, MRP, etc., and in that, when you are showing something to the users, they have to make critical business decisions, and that is going to drive, what you are going to get out of it, right? So the story that I have is when you are trying to explain MRP to somebody that the person has never seen, never worked, they don't know what an MRP is. Explaining that could be extremely challenging. Now, what we are arguing here is what they can do is they can actually provide the text. So that their challenge was always that they cannot understand the text, right? So then we go back and we draw the diagrams. We show them. Sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. Unless they use it, they won't get it. Now we are asking them, hey, now what you can do is you can write the text, which they don't understand themselves, and then they are going to get the diagrams. So I think there is going to be some value to it because there's going to be a little back and forth. From the technology perspective, but I don't know how useful that is going to be. So my fear would be that users, need to be trained, I guess, and I don't know how much this can help.
Plus, the inevitable governance questions around all of that is a key part of the puzzle, which is, I think, where you're headed, Sam.
Yep, could not agree more. Okay,
I don't know that I don't know that this has been spoken clearly, but I think that this does open up this kind of process modeling to business people who can, the fact that a business person, instead of what used to take hours or weeks, with interviews and documentation, it's not just documentation into Gen AI and then you do it. It was the interviews, the reviews, and then the technical modeling that had to be done by process experts using specialized tools. So if and the business people are the ones who know the process. And in the old world, the business person gave their description of the process and the process change and transformation that need to happen to a technical person. They put it into code. That had to go back to the business person, back to the code, back to the business person. If this can eliminate that, and it sounds like it can using, Joule, SAP's AI Copilot. So I think that this does put some powerful tools, I think, in the hands of business users and the owners of business processes.
I think I just want to inject. This is the bridge now, and I agree with you on this. This is the bridge between with ProcureTech solutions, for example, because I'm in that area, between the equation-based intake and orchestration models and the agent-based Metaprise models, because you have to communicate with the agents, and the agents are going to be at varying degrees of expertise, skills, etc. So to your point, John, there is that you can't confine it only to the experts in the area of business process, or in there, you got to also combine to the people who have an impact on the ultimate process overall. And they'll be of varying degrees of skill and intelligence and levels and knowledge. And they'll possess, let's say, street knowledge versus school knowledge. But that street knowledge is still going to be important. That's what I'm taking away from your comment. Did I miss anything?
Yeah. I think that's it exactly. I love the term bridge is accurate.
And the best news is it will make Leonard in the chat happy as well, because this is not free, Leonard. So there's no risk that it would become a paid product someday, because it already is a paid product. So that's all sorted. And on that upbeat note, I have to head out early today. I apologize for this, but I have total confidence in the remaining analysts to have brilliant insights the rest of the way. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you so much for joining, John.
Great to see you guys. Till next time.
John.
All right, guys. So we are close to our time right now. So I think the only thing we can do is any sort of closing comments, closing advice. So I'll start with you, Han. We'll go the opposite ways this time.
I think that this week showed just how much is happening in enterprise software about making everything easier to access. We have created an extremely complex technology ecosystem that we're trying to figure out, and now it is time to try to get back to doing work instead of just making things more and more complicated. I definitely saw that as a theme across the Phenom, across Progress, and then right now being able to translate SAP tasks into business process modeling, notation much more easily. We're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on when things are so complicated right now.
Exactly. And they are probably going to be even more complicated with AI. Thank you so much for that advice. John H., your closing thoughts?
Well, I've got to tell you something. I love this dialogue because it cuts through I'll be blunt, the BS of all the news, all the press releases. Some of these companies, most people would have never heard of, or maybe just in passing. So I think what this whole discussion does isn't looking for consensus or agreement or criticizing. It's to say this is the way the real landscape is today, and we've got to talk about it. And if we talk about it, maybe we'll get better understanding, and the better understanding will lead to maybe better outcomes. Because at the end of the day, and I'll go to the procure tech side, 80% of up to 80% of initiatives still fail. Yeah. And that's been a generational problem for the last 40 years. So as far as I'm concerned, the only true measurement of any of this is what impact it has on that bottom line. But this is an important discussion, so I enjoy being a part of it.
Could not agree more. And that's probably going to be a problem for the next 40 years as well. John S., do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see the maturing. We're 2.5 years into the release of ChatGPT. So generative AI is, especially as it moves into these vertical markets and more specialized solutions, we're beginning to see a lot more value being generated out of it. I would describe year one as extremely niche, even though Gen AI supposedly could do everything. The models have matured. The large language models have matured. The very specific, industry-specific and application-specific models are improving. And we're going to continue to see, I think, this year, the increase in value from generative AI.
Yeah, could not agree more. And my closing thoughts are going to be that even with the turbulence in the economy right now, we are still seeing so much momentum with AI. And if we didn't have that, then we're probably going to get more. So just look at it, how exciting this is going to get probably in the next 3-4 years. On that note, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our Analyst Gone Wild series, for which we meet every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So I'll see you guys next week, same time.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.